All right. Final mile, take two. We just started recording and realized it wasn't recording. Welcome back to the final mile. We got 4 questions for you. Please check out all of our other content at freight360.net, including the Freight Broker Basics course, and check out the sponsors in the description to support this channel. First question up, and this is me and Steven today. How does recourse versus non-recourse factoring work? This was a follow-on question from our recent episode with HallPay. Non-recourse factoring, if you have a factoring company that's funding your invoices and you're truly non-recourse, that means that if the customer doesn't pay the invoice, you are not on the hook for that money. Whereas recourse, if the customer doesn't pay, you would be on the hook to pay that money back that you were forwarded. Now, there's some gray area in there. So if a company advertises themselves as non-recourse, they might say, "Yeah, we're non-recourse," unless, like, let's say the customer doesn't pay within 90 days or 60 days. So just make sure you understand the fine print on what you're signing up for. So yeah, it's either you're on the hook for the money if it's not paid, or you're not. And typically, if the factoring company is the one that is vetting your customer for a credit line, which is very common, that's why they would be non-recourse. Is, hey, we're the ones that approved this credit line. We approved to fund this invoice, and it's going to be non-recourse. If it's recourse, they might be more lenient on credit lines. They might have lesser fees. Yeah. So anything I missed on that one, Stephen?
No, I think you pretty much nailed it. And just like anything you do in this industry, whether it's booking loads or insurance or whatever, just always make sure you're reading the fine print before you sign any contracts.
Absolutely. Good stuff. All right. Next question. This is about FreightGuard. So is a carrier able to book loads and continue to work after having a FreightGuard report for not having the right coverage for a damaged load? The commodity damage was excluded from the policy. So in this instance, this was from our Facebook group, I believe. So what it sounds like what happened is a carrier hauled a load, it was damaged, and then they come to find out that their insurance didn't cover that commodity. So maybe it was like frozen seafood or berries or electronics. Basically, whatever was being hauled wasn't covered by the policy. And now the broker has left a FreightGuard report on carrier 411 against this carrier. So they're saying, can I still book loads and continue to work? So the short answer here is, yeah, FreightGuard doesn't stop you from, it's like it doesn't shut down your authority to haul freight. But it's not a good look that you hauled freight that you had that wasn't insured by your insurance company. And now this could be, there's probably more to this story, right? It could be that the broker didn't specifically, they weren't clear about what the commodity was in detail and verify that there was no exclusion on it, et cetera. But the FreightGuard is more of like a social review, if you will. Stephen, what's your take here? I know you were saying earlier that you had you were dealing with something with FreightGuard earlier or recently.
Yeah. So first of all, the FreightGuard report that you're laying out here, there's two faults here. One, the broker didn't do their due diligence to check the insurance and make sure the exclusions weren't there.
Right.
And then the carrier, either through omission or incompetence, didn't also do their due diligence. So there's an issue there. And that FreightGuard report is, that's a pretty standard FreightGuard report, or like TIA Watchdog or whatever, reporting systems. All those are, like you said, they're just a review, like a Google review of your business. It's just through an industry specific platform. But the caveat onto this conversation, Carrier 411, me personally, I am not a fan of that platform. Their brokers have used FreightGuards as a weapon and against carriers, and there's a lot. I mean, it's sometimes these FreightGuard reports are worse than a Reddit forum, and there's little to no value. And it's just so saturated with BS that we have just ultimately went away. And
I don't even use it.
Yeah, we went to. I'm not going to pay for something. Especially the other issue with Carrier 411 is they have little tools for the carriers to refute FreightGuard reports, and so many people in the industry use it that it hinders a carrier's even good carriers' ability to do business. That's just, I mean, that's not something I'm going to support. So
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. People have weaponized it for sure. The same. I mean, one of the things that's nice about Google is you can respond to a Google review and address whatever the like. We do it every single time a carrier leaves a 1-star rating because they were pissed off at one of our brokers. Freight guards, they're permanent now, aren't they? Like you can't
yep,
even can't get rid of them. So
the permanent, they
it's
can't go
interesting.
away, and the carriers have it's very hard for them to respond to the freight guard reports. Um, and yeah, it's just, I don't know. And the other issue is there's so many better products on the market to vet carriers that it's silly to just keep
Yeah,
back to that
agreed.
system.
All right, next question. What should I do when I have a driver that breaks down in the middle of a shipment? So there's a lot that depends here. So we'll say, let's say you've got a long haul transport, right? So it's not a local move. So you're going across the country and, halfway or whatever partial way down the road, the truck breaks down. Um, so there's a couple things that you would look at here. Ideally, the truck can get fixed quickly and continue to operate. That's one option. If it's a long, like if they have to go to the shop for multiple days and they can't finish the delivery, ideally they would have another truck in their fleet. They could come and pick that trailer up and deliver it. But let's say you're dealing with an owner operator, like just one truck. They don't have anyone else in their company, or that the company doesn't have another available truck. What do you do here? Um, you'd have to find another carrier and transload that. I mean, so one option would be you have it cross docked, so you'd have the trailer taken to a warehouse type facility where that freight could be taken off of that trailer, and then you'd send a new carrier into that same facility to then get reloaded with that freight and deliver it. Alternative option would be to have a power only other carrier come and with a trailer interchange agreement and insurance would haul the first carrier's trailer to delivery. It's kind of messy because now you've repositioned the original carrier's truck, or I'm sorry, their equipment, their trailer, and you're dealing with a insurance policy and agreement that you've got to put in place. So these are messy situations. Um, Big takeaway: talk to your customer and say, "Hey, here's what happened." If it's not time sensitive, and they can deal with a slight delay, you probably just want to keep the same carrier on there until they can get it delivered. If it's very time sensitive, well, you're probably going to deal with a transload or a trailer interchange where you're having a power only come pick it up and haul someone else's trailer. They get messy. The reality is this stuff does happen. But this is one of the reasons why you really want to vet the maintenance history and the safety ratings of these carriers and the age of their equipment, stuff like that. What do they have faults for on their roadside inspections? Is it stuff that's easily preventable, like brakes and tires and lights, like the basic preventative maintenance stuff that you should be checking in and out on a regular basis? If they're getting dinged for that a lot, well, they're more prone to breakdowns because they're not taking care of their trucks. You ever dealt with one of those mid-transit breakdowns?
Oh yeah, yeah. I get those not as often as it used to be, which is shocking with how low the market is. You would think I would have to deal with it more, but yeah, it happens. Um, and it again, it's always case dependent. I've had to do trailer interchanges and make sure that the carriers had the correct policies. If not, we had to go to the insurance company to get a one-time policy for the movement. And then I've had it where, you know, just let the guy sit and get it fixed. And
Yeah, because think about this too: is like if the guy breaks down, he might say like, "I'm not letting somebody else haul my trailer." You know what I mean? Like that's a real possibility. In which case, then like you're going to have to get it cross docked somewhere in that area.
yeah,
So, but
and you can get
it's
it cross dock. What I found effective though in those situations, because even sometimes they'll be hesitant against getting it cross dock because they want to get paid for the freight and whatever. But usually the tactic I'll take is, well, here's how much the product costs. Here's what the claim's going to cost at X, Y, and Z if you're not there on time or if something spoils or whatever. It's like, so which road do you want to go down? And then when you start throwing out claims and stuff like that, they usually get a little more
Yeah, that's a good
receptive.
point. Because let's say we'll just make up numbers here. Let's say the load is was supposed to pay $2,000, and now because of the breakdown, you've added $1,000 to hire another carrier, $200 for a cross dock or whatever. Now there's only $800 left to pay this guy, and he's thinking like, I want to get paid, like, you know what I mean? So it's a good point. So stuff happens though. Good question. All right, our last one. This is going on TONUs. If a shipper cancels a load on me 2 hours before pickup, does that deserve a TONU? There's not a simple yes or no answer here. We've talked about TONUs in the past. So I'll give you a few scenarios here. Let's say it's 2 hours before pickup and you don't have a truck yet. Obviously, that's not a TONU because they're not going to pay a TONU for a truck that was never booked. Let's say it was canceled 2 hours before pickup, but the truck that you're supposed to be sending in there hasn't been dispatched yet, which is probably unlikely if it's 2 hours. But usually the rule of thumb is like, if the truck hasn't been dispatched to go pick it up yet and it's canceled, probably not going to pay a TONU. Like if they book it for tomorrow and it cancels today, and they're still not even empty with their last load, no, like that's not a TONU. You go find another load. It's unfortunate. It is what it is. But a lot of customers will have their truck order not used policy set where they say, hey, if we cancel same day, we're paying a TONU. If we cancel within 8 hours, we'll pay a TONU. If it's outside of that time frame, we're not paying a TONU. Now, that doesn't mean that just because your customer doesn't approve a TONU doesn't mean that you shouldn't ethically give a carrier a truck order not used payment. So, like, let's say in this case, customer cancels it 2 hours before, they deny the TONU. You had a driver that was already on their way to pick it up. If it's me, I'm still paying that driver for their time because I wasted their time. And I think they deserve that truck order not used, even if my customer wants to be, an a-hole and deny it to me when they're the one that canceled it. So what is your take on the TONU? Do you have a TONU policy that you guys kind of go by, or is it case by case?
Yeah. And actually I was going to say, that this Final Mile episode seems to be very about contracts because what I was going to mention is, if you're questioning whether you should ask your customer for a TONU within 2 hours, my question to you is, like, what did it say in the contract? Was it listed in the contract? Because whenever I set up customers or bring in new customers, we'll talk about lanes and rates and stuff like that. But somewhere in that conversation before I move the first load is accessorials. What's your detention pay? What's your layover? What's, if this happens, And if that person I'm talking to just has no idea, I already have a document on my desktop that says, well, here's what I do. Let me know if this aligns with you, if we need to tweak something here or there based on what you've seen in your operations. Because I'm going to have a list of accessorials. TONU is going to be on there. Typically, it's a 24-hour window. If the truck's dispatched, if not, then it's based on when they're dispatched within the 24 hours and going towards picking up the load.
Yeah, it's a pretty good rule of thumb. The specific question of 2 hours, I'm going to say in more cases than not, it's gonna pay a TONU. Obviously, the difference being, like, if it was a last minute load that the customer awarded you and you haven't booked the truck yet, and then they cancel it 10 minutes later, like, no, like, it's not going to be a TONU. But yeah, if it's a predictable load, pre-scheduled, if the truck's already rolling, I'm paying a TONU. If it's the day before and they're still on their last load, that's not really grounds for truck order not use payment. But good stuff. Good questions. Keep sending them our way. We pull them from the YouTube comments, from you guys emailing us or filling out the form on our website and our Facebook group, which there is a link in the episode show notes for that as well. Stephen, thanks for filling in for Ben this week. Any final thoughts on your end?
No, hopefully the Bengals pull out a win against Deshaun Watson and the Brownies this weekend. But that's about all I got.
There you go. Well, I guess is that going to be, because this will drop Tuesday? Will that have been the weekend this coming?
Oh yeah, that'd be.
It'll already have happened.
Yeah, so you guys will know. I get a fine.
I think you're going to get the win.
Yeah.
We'll see. And until next time, go Bills.